And that's dropping a big stone in a very placid lake, and here come the waves. That's moving right out into reality, and the person is beginning to change their energy. And nobody changes until they change their energy. And when they change their energy, they change their life. Whatever's going on in the news, whatever's going on in the media, whatever's going on, it's incidental to the fact that now they're beginning to make great strides. So when people come, for all kinds of reasons, they come to get healthy, they come to get wealthy, they come to have a relationship, they come for a mystical experience. But I now know they really come for wholeness. And when you feel so whole because your brain is so orderly and so coherent, and you've trained your heart to be more in coherence, this is where it gets interesting, because now all of a sudden you're no longer seduced by the conditions in your outer world. In fact, you're seeing the hidden meaning behind everything because you're viewing it from a greater level of consciousness. So sitting in the fire of your guilt, sitting in the fire of your pain, and knowing what to do when that happens, and teaching people that as they begin to lower the volume to those emotions, that's the greatest challenge they have in their lives. I mean, people say to me, what do you do in the morning? Well, 2 hours in the morning, that's a lot of time. Well, if I can overcome myself at the beginning of the day, the rest of my day is easy.
Like attracts like. You have to understand, you are a magnet. Whatever you are, that's what you draw to you. If you're negative, you're going to draw negativity. You're positive, you draw positive. You're a kind person, more people are kind to you. So you're like a magnet, and you got to understand something about like attracts like. If you see it in your mind, you can hold it in your hand. Ask, believe, receive. So many people overlook this very simple quality. You don't have to figure it out. That's what freezes people. When you're trying to figure out your life all the way to the end, when you can't figure it out, it freezes you from trying it. You don't have to know how. You have to ask, believe, and receive. That's as simple as it gets, folks. Faith says, believe, and I'll show you. If you show gratitude, it gets you to where you want to be quicker. It attracts joy, it releases negativity. At my mom's funeral, I learned something that was the most important lesson I've ever learned. I was sitting there, I was totally distraught. My mama was gone. The minister said something. He told us to think of only the good things that she's done. So me and my brothers were sitting there, and we started laughing about some of the stuff my mom had done. And we started smiling. And then the minister said something that has registered with me. Joy and depression cannot reside in the same space.
So we develop set points for everything. And so if the set point's in the brain, and there's a psychocybernetic mechanism in the brain, a control and response mechanism in the brain, and it's our brain, why not learn how to reset the set point? Anybody can do 1 minute or 10 seconds. So if you can start to formulate a habit, a daily habit, a weekly habit, it doesn't matter how long it is. If you can create that space in your brain that on this day, at this time, this is what I do, and you do that repeatedly, that becomes a habit. And it takes those 66 days or so for a simple habit that you have to consciously do to then the habit doing you.
And to me, I allow for 2 hours. Sometimes I can nail it in 45 minutes or an hour, and sure, I'm done. Other times, I'm on the wrong time zone. I have meetings all day long, got a lot going on, and I'm just not going to fall prey to that common state of thinking. Because my brain waves are just right. I don't have to work as hard. Yeah, my body's a little fatigued, but I'm between worlds. The first part in truly creating a new personal reality is overcoming your present personality. You got to get beyond the normal thinking patterns, the normal urges of action and habits, to get beyond certain emotions that are residuals from the day before. That's the work right there. That's the part you have to overcome. What I've learned is those hard days, the days that are the most challenging, are always the most rewarding. Because now you're uncompromising to an outcome. And if it takes you an hour to get beyond yourself, to find the present moment, because that's the only place where the unknown exists. The familiar emotions and hardwired patterns of the past are the known. The predictable future in trying to forecast the feeling of every event in our life people do unconsciously is also the known. There's only one place where the unknown exists, and that's the present moment. And I've just done it enough times to know when you're there and when you're not. When you're not, it's very obvious because you've been there enough times. So it's just like hitting a tennis ball in a sweet spot. You lock into something and that wholeness starts to happen, and now you're no longer creating from polarity or duality or opposites. You know, people, they create when they see they don't have something. Whether, hey, nice suit, I want one of those, right? In the moment I see that you have a nice suit and I start thinking, I want one of those, my brain naturally starts putting me in the equation. Next thing you know, I'm wearing your suit. Well, that's because we're wired to do that. We have this natural ability to create. The problem is after you imagine that, you open your eyes and you don't have it, people experience more lack. Well, we're not that good yet. The act of practicing enough times and beginning to create the state in which you're so connected to the energy of your future. You're so connected to the energy of your future, you're no longer looking for it or waiting for it. You feel like it's already happened. The moment you get upset in traffic, the moment you start judging a coworker, you just disconnected from the energy of your future, and now you're back to the energy of your past. You're back to the unconscious program of being a victim again. So then you look around to see if anybody's doing it, and you don't see anybody else doing it. It's kind of this kind of lonely moment where you're realizing that I'm the only one doing this. That's that kind of moment that you realize that nobody understands you but you.
There was also beliefs. You talked about what else was in there. He also asked me to write down, what would you have to believe about yourself in order to achieve those goals? I'd have to believe I'm deserving enough. I'd have to believe I'm worthy enough. So he taught me the power of repetition. He taught me the power of looking at stuff, touching stuff, feeling stuff, seeing stuff, hearing stuff, memorizing stuff. If somebody tells me visualize, I go, why? Like, how does it work? If you ask me to visualize, like, why does it work? Like, why should I invest my time on that versus something else? If you're asking me to use affirmations, like, how specifically, why, how does it work? It has to do with circuits in the brain and neurochemicals that are released. And so when we feel something, chances are that we're going to release dopamine in the brain, the feel-good neurochemical that activates the reward center of the brain. And we have this positive emotion around it, and that neurochemistry is flooding our brain and our body with feel-good chemicals. We're actually activating the motivational center of the brain. Visualize, when we set a goal, when we take an action step, when we emotionalize, when we read our goals, the initial flood of neurochemicals, dopamine, serotonin, feel-good chemicals, and then if we share it with a friend, oxytocin, those three neurochemicals, those are the neurochemicals of goal achievement.
So now, the person who's now living in that future known reality, how are they going to change? Well, the moment you make a decision and you come out of your resting state and you begin to say, this, I don't care what people think, environment. I don't care how I feel, body. I'm going to do this. And the hair on the back of your neck stands up. That's a new electrochemical signal to the body. This is the body saying, he's serious this time. It's like jumping on a horse and wrapping your legs around and giving it a kick. The body's like, ooh, we're going to ride now. That moment defines the person. So then the stronger the emotion, if the emotion of inspiration is greater than the emotion of suffering from the past experience, the stronger the emotion they feel, the more they pay attention to the picture in their mind. We could say they're remembering their future, and they're beginning to brand that circuitry in their brain and send a new emotional signature to their body. They're creating a coherent, clear intention with an elevated, coherent heart emotion, and now they're broadcasting a whole new signature, and that's dropping a big stone in a very placid lake, and here come the waves. That's moving right out into reality. The person is beginning to change their energy, and nobody changes until they change their energy, and when they change their energy, they change their life. And the cool part is you start seeing the breadcrumbs coming from the universe.
I woke up And I suddenly got it. I understood suddenly how thought was just an illusory thing, is responsible for, if not all, most of the suffering we experience. And suddenly I was thrown into this expansive, amazing feeling of freedom from myself. I saw that I was bigger than what I do. I was bigger than my body. I was everything and everyone. I was no longer a fragment of the universe. I was the universe.